If we pretend this is an average NBA player, this is Anthony Davis. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about the unique medical side of the world of sports. Can you think of a player who goes down and initially looks like they've suffered a season-ending injury more than Anthony Davis? In this video, we're going to take a look at another injury scare for Anthony Davis here in Game 5 of the Finals, and then talk a little bit about why it seems like Anthony Davis is always getting hurt and getting put into these moments. Plus, we'll go over some brief updates about Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic. As always, if you enjoy learning about this unique side of sports, please consider subscribing to my channel, and be sure and go follow me over on Twitter for more real-time breakdowns and analysis. So this is the play in the first quarter where everybody got concerned about AD here. He's trying to go up for a rebound here against Iguodala, and basically if you keep an eye on his right ankle, something happened here during this sequence where he immediately, you could tell he was in pain with this right ankle, doesn't want to put any weight on it, and reaches down behind his heel. Now, unfortunately, this was the moment right here when Twitter just exploded with people saying, oh my gosh, he's reaching for his Achilles. Did it look like an Achilles? Listen, not every time somebody looks down at their ankle and reaches for their Achilles doesn't mean they've ruptured their Achilles. Here, Davis is reaching down in kind of the posterior of his ankle near his heel bone or calcaneus, which is what we found out afterwards was what he had basically re-aggravated here during this play. But part of what I was saying at the beginning of this video, I mean, when this happened, we can see Davis on the ground here, and he stayed down for a long time. We've got the medical staff that comes out. You know, he still isn't really moving, still doesn't seem to want to get up. Eventually, the whole Lakers team is over there with him, and you think this guy's just had a season-ending injury. Finally, we see AD get up, but even still, he can't put any weight hardly on this ankle, and still can't hardly get off the court. As people have brought up, this seems to happen a lot for Anthony Davis, where for whatever reason, he goes down with these injuries that on initial look seem to be like they're going to be some season-ending catastrophic thing. I mean, this whole sequence took longer than a lot of guys who have an ACL tear on the court. So it's just kind of an odd thing for a guy who then was able to come in and basically play the rest of the game and not really seem to be affected until the very end. Now, as you guys probably noticed at the end of the game, Davis seemed to be limping up and down the court again. This first injury was his right heel that he aggravated, and the second time it was that left foot, left ankle. This is the play where it happened here at the end of the game. We can see Davis is getting ready to go in to try and get a rebound, and it looks like at some point here with his left foot, I think what happened was he basically rolled his foot stepping on somebody here trying to go up and get that rebound, because it's right after he goes up that you can tell he doesn't want to put any weight on that left foot. He's limping on that left foot and was favoring it the rest of the game. The other thing here I want to point out as I was reviewing this clip, look at Davis's knees right in this position as he's jumping up to try to get this rebound. I mean, it's normal for guys to have their knees kind of cave inward a little bit when they go up for a jump shot, but I mean, this is downright extreme. This is not a comfortable position for your knees. I mean, this is just the way that Davis has kind of developed his jumping mechanics, but this looks really uncomfortable, and I'm surprised it hasn't caused more issues for him. Now, before we dive into kind of the specifics of what these two injury scares seem to be, what they mean for Davis going forward, and then kind of his injury risk piece, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Many of you are here because you have a passion for learning, but there's a lot of other things out there to learn about that maybe it's hard to find time for due to how long it takes to sit down and read a book. Thankfully, there's a solution for you, and it's the sponsor of today's video, Blinkist, an app that I highly recommend for anybody who wants to learn more, but do it in an efficient way. Blinkist features 15-minute summarized, concise breakdowns of the key points from over 3,000 nonfiction books. You can read them or listen to them podcast style, and they've got a user base of over 14 million people, so you know they're gonna have a lot of great content to choose from. I'm personally a big fan of Jonathan Haidt's book, The Happiness Hypothesis, but Blinkist is great here because I can now refer back to it when I want to just remember the key points or some summaries instead of having to sit down and read the entire book again. I also love how they have a lot of Malcolm Gladwell here. You guys know I'm a big fan of his, and again, you can get nice, short, concise versions and still learn a lot from him. The first 100 people to head over to Blinkist.com/BrianMD are going to get unlimited access to try it out for the first week. You'll also get 25% off if you choose to sign up for the full membership. The 7-day trial is completely free, and you can cancel it at any time during that period. So use the link in the description below, head over and start taking advantage of a great way to learn efficiently. Thank you again to Blinkist for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to our learning. So the Lakers are saying that the initial injury at the first quarter was a re-aggravation of a heel contusion that Davis has been dealing with. This is a right foot here. Basically, we've got all the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, and the bones here in a right lower leg, foot, and ankle region. And specifically, this bone is our heel bone. It's called the calcaneus. It's the location where your big long Achilles tendon comes down to insert on. But you can clearly see here, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here around this region of the ankle. We, of course, have all the ligaments coming down from the muscles up in the leg. We've got all the muscles in the foot. We've got all these different ligaments here. And so there's a lot of different possible things that could cause somebody pain back in this area where Davis was reaching, and the Lakers have told us it's a contusion of the heel. When they say heel contusion, I'm guessing they mean contusion of the bone as opposed to just some irritation to those muscles, so that's what we'll talk about a little bit more in detail. This is a cross-section of a femur, so of course different from the heel bone, but gives us the same kind of anatomy that we can use to talk about bone contusions or bone bruises. The outermost layer of our bones is called cortical bone. It's very hard, it's very firm. It's what you're initially seeing on the outside of the bone. But deep to that, we have this softer bone that's called cancellous bone or trabecular bone. And it's thought that a bone bruise or a bone contusion is when you have microscopic fracturing of this soft trabecular bone. That soft spongy bone is kind of like a very thin honeycomb pattern. And so there's a lot of little tiny pieces of kind of that bony material that can become fractured on a microscopic level, give you some bleeding, cause you the pain, and be what gives you that bone bruise. And you know, if we go back to this play with Davis where he got hurt here, if you keep an eye on his right foot, I mean, as it swings back, it looks like maybe right here, it makes a little bit of contact with Duncan Robinson's right knee. And so I'm guessing that was when, you know, they said he got kicked, but he really kind of swung his own leg into the defender. So that was probably when, you know, hard bone of the knee making contact with his heel seemed to aggravate what was going on here. You know, there are other structures down here that can be really sensitive and cause pain though. Of course, everybody worries about the Achilles, but usually just contact from someone, you know, kicking or you hitting your Achilles tendon on someone else isn't gonna cause severe pain like this. There's specifically bursa here around the heel bone that can become inflamed and sore in athletes. And so it's possible that there's, you know, a little bit of that going on, which would certainly be extremely sensitive and tender if it got hit like we saw happen here with Davis. Now the play at the end of the game seemed to be thought that he had rolled his left ankle again. He was kind of grabbing at that area. If you remember back to the Denver-LA series, Davis did roll that left ankle. He was going up for a shot here, came down and, you know, he didn't even land on anybody's foot. He just kind of twisted his own ankle here as he came down. And so Davis has been dealing with a little bit of a left ankle problem here in the playoffs, and it's possible that got re-aggravated. Now, like I said at the beginning, Davis seems to have so many of these episodes where he's got these injury scares where he goes down, seems like he's gonna have this catastrophic season-ending injury, and then ends up being okay. I do wanna point out one thing here about Davis's build that I think does give him some predisposition to these various injuries that he's had throughout his career. There is no doubt that Anthony Davis is a very tall, very lanky guy with very long arms, very long legs, long, thin fingers, and in general, thin arms and legs. A lot of Davis's injuries have been things like finger injuries, they've been ankle sprains, concerns with his shoulder, all things that in some way have to do with the length of his fingers, his arms, or his legs. There's a simple concept in physics about levers. Think of if you ever had to like pry something open, you get a big long crowbar because you want that extra length of a lever arm to give you more torque at the point where you're inserting it. If I take this stick here, if I have it short and I'm trying to apply a force or a torque at this end, if I push down on this side of the object, because it's a shorter distance, I'm not getting very much torque at the end here. But if I stretch this out, so I increase the length of my lever arm, now when I push out on this end, I'm able to generate a lot more torque over here on the side. If we pretend this is an average NBA player's finger length, arm length, leg length, this is Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis having longer fingers, longer arms, longer legs, it puts more torque on his joints at the ends of those body parts, like his ankle, like his fingers, like his shoulder. So it's nothing he can prevent, it's just his build. But that's a big part of why these things seem to happen to him. It's because he's got such a long biomechanical lever arm that he's generating so much more torque at those joints. And I'd be shocked if either of these two things made Davis miss any time. Heel contusions, bone contusions are just painful, but as long as you're not guarding or putting yourself at risk because of how you're moving from the pain, I don't see a reason why he wouldn't get back out there and be able to play. Same with the ankle. We've seen him come back from ankle sprains pretty quickly with no major issue. And it's the finals, so they're going to do whatever they can to make sure he can get out there. I want to finish up here real quick with some updates on Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo. First off with Bam, of course, we've seen him come back. He doesn't look to be as effective as before, but he doesn't seem like he's in noticeable pain play to play out there on the court. He did an interview where he said, no, the shoulder was completely different from this neck thing. I don't know what to believe. The Heat have been so back and forth with the reporting here that I still think there's something going on with his shoulder. Rachel Nichols had a tweet earlier when Bam returned where he said that they tried to have him do a push-up before Game 3, but he wasn't able to do a push-up. Before Game 4, he was able to do a push-up, and so they let him play. I can't think of any reason why you would do a push-up to test a neck injury, but you would certainly do a push-up to test shoulder pain. So we'll see. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he's playing okay, but I think there's probably going to be more that comes out about this after the season. On the other hand, we have Goran Dragic. You guys saw the really just heartbreaking footage of him trying to go and being unable to before the last game. This is something that, depending on how bad his tear is, you really can't make worse. If you've completely torn that plantar fascia, it's completely torn. All you're going to do is delay healing by playing on it. The bigger problem, though, is if he has pain, that can cause you to subconsciously adapt your movements to where you put yourself at risk of other injuries. We know, of course, that Dragic has been wearing this big knee brace for a while, and so if he's got pain in his foot from this injury, his body's going to make adaptations. It's going to load his joints in different ways, and so while necessarily that tear might not be any worse, you put yourself at risk of other injuries. At this point, I'd be really surprised if Dragic comes back and plays. This is an injury that takes like weeks to months to really heal and scar down, and so there's not much that's going to change in the span of a few days. The only hope would be if they can get some better pain control for him to try to get him back out on the court. So that's it for the video, everybody. Super excited here that we get to see a Game 6. Hopefully there's no more concerns here with injuries, and these guys can just make it through the rest of the finals, get to the offseason, start their recovery. Let me know, as always, if you have any questions or comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.